Compton and the influx of Starbucks.
Well, yeah, it's just talking about, you know, the landscape in general out here in Los Angeles is so crazy. Like, and obviously everywhere is just shifting so drastically. And now with the coronavirus, it's all crazy. But like, yeah, areas that used to be really brutal out here are suddenly, you know, like you see a Starbucks grow up, you know, from the ground, and you're like, oh, well, I see what's happening here, you know, and they just gentrify the area completely, and it doesn't take that long. So yeah, people are buying up houses in Compton right now, and everywhere else, Inglewood, all these places out here that used to be, you know, people would say that they would never be there. Those are going to be it's wild.
And you're originally from Baltimore, which has been referred to as a rat-infested hellhole. It's a great rat-infested hellhole, though. I love Baltimore. Baltimore is my favorite place on earth, man. Baltimore is, to me, like, I would never want to be from somewhere else. Like, I'm, you know, fucking Ravens fan, Orioles fan. Like, I want to eat crabs all the time. Like, I'm about Baltimore, man. I love how raw Baltimore is. I mean, obviously, Baltimore needs to get its shit together because it deals with a lot of, you know, has a lot of problems, like a lot of crime and poverty and drugs and murder rates super high per capita. Like, we got hit by the crack epidemic harder than almost anyone. So we got some real problems there, but it's also a really quirky place, and a lot of cool shit comes out of there. You know, John Waters is from there. It's got a certain energy to it that I've never found anywhere else. It's kind of like this mix of weird and tough. It's got something. There's something there. I'm really glad to be from there, especially now that I live out in California, and there's so many delusional, you know, Halloween costume people here that very, you know, a lot of very inauthentic people that are kind of chasing something. Like, it feels nice to be from somewhere that's so real. The East Coast in general, man. Like, the East Coast in general, it's where it's at. Oh, no West Side for you then. West Side.
I dig the West Coast too, man. I feel like there's such different experiences, you know, that I've never subscribed to the whole, like, people being like, New York being like, oh, screw LA or screw California and California. But, you know, what I've learned is that's a very one-sided fight. Like, the people on the West Coast don't care. Like, we're not, you know, people in LA aren't fussed about New York, or people in San Francisco aren't fussed about New York. It's the people on the East Coast that kind of throw shade at the West Coast. But they're both cool. You don't have to pick a side, you know. They're both cool.
Yeah, I often hear that from people that move to Idaho from California, or they move to Florida, and I find them constantly complaining on social media about California, and California, we don't even know that they exist.
Yeah, we don't have time for this, dude. We're too busy doing cool shit. Like, we're too busy doing all the stuff that you know. It's like, if you got rid of New York, those are the two states that get the most hate, right? You get California and New York. All the people outside of them are just like, act like they're out of touch, you know. And it's like, no, dude, we're the ones that you're dragging your asses, you know, forward. You know, we're the ones that are trying to progress and you know, to be careful, or else we're gonna break off and just do our own thing at some point. Like, you know, I appreciate all those places, and I appreciate, you know, but we're not sitting around hating on Idaho. You know, you're not sitting around in California like being bummed about Nebraska and talking shit about them. It's like, dude, just, you know, I used to be like that when I was younger. I was in Baltimore. I had this idea before I was ever in a band. I had this idea of what California was, and I thought that, you know, everyone out here was soft, and everyone's just hanging out at the beach and living these foo-foo lives. And it's like, no, it's not. You know, you get out here and you're just like, oh, you just don't have to deal with winter. That's pretty much the only thing that, you know, I feel like Californians are. But up there, obviously, you're up north, right? Like, you guys get some brutal temperatures up there. Down here, the people from here are a little soft as far as the weather. The East Coast winters harden you, I think, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, lately we've been getting triple-digit summers that last several weeks, sometimes even for more than a month. But we have lakes and rivers, and most importantly, air conditioning.
Yeah, I always say that I don't, you know, understand why we don't know the name. Everybody should know the name of the man who came up with air conditioning. This man should have a Nobel Prize. we should have a year. We should have a day every year where we celebrate this man. Like I mean, come on. Like, what would we do without air conditioning? Like, we would just be sitting around sweating, we're not being able to sleep, just be pure misery for, half of the year. It's like, man, we need to commemorate this man, figure out who, probably some dude that worked at General Electric 100 years ago or something that doesn't have any credit, no one knows. So we got to find out this man's name and celebrate this guy. Willis Carrier was an American engineer, born in 1876, invented the first electrical air conditioning unit in 1902. Pretty wild.
Should be a day.
He was born on November 26th, so he was born in the winter, which is even crazier. So like, we have to celebrate this man. Let me hereby declare November 26th. Let it be known on this radio show that that's going to be, every day that we celebrate air conditioning.
And for anybody that might be listening to this and does not know, we have Greg Puciato, formerly of Metalcore Visionaries, the Dillinger Escape Plan, on the phone. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Why not? I'll take that title. You pronounced it the right way. Like, I'll accept Metalcore Visionaries.
Absolutely. I got the Metalcore part from Wikipedia, which is often wrong.
Yeah, we don't consider ourselves a metalcore band, but I'm beyond. I've given up on trying to explain to people what we were, because we ended up sounding so many different ways. So it just became like, I don't know, man. People go, "What do you guys sound like?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Just a band. Wrote some songs, put some stuff out, did some things. And it's not really my problem. Not really my place to categorize it. People can say whatever they want.
And let's talk a little bit about your first solo album, Child Soldier, Creator of God.
Yep, that's it.
It was leaked early by one of us. Is that right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I woke up one day and, I kind of expect this to happen, but you kind of think it's going to happen a few days before the release. And sometimes, with recent years, they've been able to get it pretty under control. But, I woke up and I had a bunch of text messages at some unsavory time of the morning that no one ever texts me or calls me. And I was like, oh, what's going on? It's immediately, you're like, something's going on. I look at my phone and it's like, hey man, your record leaked. It's like, oh fuck. Yeah. And then, I hit up a buddy of mine who, works for a company, or he owns a company that kind of sends out, DMCA notices and kills download links and things like that. I said, hey, can you poke around and figure out, how bad this is, and can you find the source leak? So he sent me the source leak, sent it to my publicist, and she's the one that sends out all the watermarked, every single version. It's like, people are listening might not know this, but every single reviewer that gets a copy, they get basically a watermarked copy that is its own individual fingerprint. So when a leak happens, if a leak happens, it can be traced back to one of those particular fingerprints. And so within 10 minutes, we knew who did it. We knew that person's name. We knew the outlet that he worked for. And that was kind of a drag. And my publicist told me that in 20 years of doing publicity, she's never had a reviewer on her list leak a record. And, at first I'm like, I just knocked the heart out of me a little bit, knocked the wind out of me. It's like, man, spent a year and a half working on this, and it wasn't even about a financial loss, because it's 2020, we're bleeding out iTunes downloads. It's not 2006, so it was more about just I can't believe that there's people out there that think that in 2020 that's something to do, that's something ethical to do, that 3 weeks ahead of time to take someone's hard work, and then you're going to jump in front of it, and you're going to be the guy that's going to be like, no, I'm doing this. I can't process it, because you don't get anything out of it. You don't get any money for it. It's like you could trade that in for a free dinner somewhere, or whatever cool points that he accrued on whatever message board he belongs to by doing that, or Reddit, wherever he, started to leak it out. I just don't understand. And knowing behind the scenes that every, my publicist emailed that guy's name to every single outlet and being like, if this guy ever tries to write for you, this is what just happened. So it's not only are you getting blacklisted, but you're not gaining anything from it. And but then I turned it around, and I treated it kind of like a challenge. I treated it like a curveball. Kept things interesting for me, and I don't mind having to deal with a curveball. And within 24 hours, my friend that works at the company that takes down links got back to me, and he was like, hey man, I've killed 147 links in the last 24 hours. And that doesn't include, obviously, direct messaging. A lot of your fans are probably direct messaging one another so that they don't look, like douchebags publicly. They're probably sending private links to each other. And he was like, the link sounds terrible, by the way. Like, it was clearly ripped from a stream. Because we didn't give reviewers the ability to download it. So he used some aftermarket program to rip to the stream. And it just sounded like shit. But as soon as I heard that, I was, you know what? Like, I'm just going to get on top of this, and we're going to release it right now. Like, we're just going to release it right now. We're going to put out all the digital downloads right now. And we're going to change the date of the Spotify and the Apple and the streaming to like the first Friday we can, which was like the following Friday. And that's it. And we're going to take the power from this guy, and we're going to make sure that the people that are bought my record hear it first with the quality that it should be heard, not some shitty version. And as soon as I did that, like I did that before I even got out of bed that day, like as soon as I did, I felt fine. Felt great. And it gave me something to talk about. It gives me something to be fired up about. It gave me, something to dig my teeth into a little bit as far as like becoming more passionate about artistic control and the ability to sort of adapt to your surroundings. And a lot of people ended up hitting me up, not just to tell me what they thought about the record, but to sort of be like, hey man, like it was really cool that you guys were able to pivot so quickly and not just dig your teeth in and try to force things to be the way that they were supposed to be. Because, I think a lot of it's like raining. It's like it's raining on a day that you thought it was going to be sunny, and maybe you had some plan to go outside, and now it rains. It's like, well, you got to figure something else out. Like, you can't just sit around all day bitching about how it was supposed to be sunny. It's like you got to find something new to make out of your day, and that's really all it is. There's no such thing as a problem, man. There's only a such thing as your inability to adapt to the situation that was presented to you that you thought was going to be something else. That's it. So if you stay free enough to adapt, there's never really any problems.
Now, I know that Metallica in the past, Lars Ulrich in particular, was given much grief about going after people and protecting his art.
Right.
Can we expect this person to? Can we expect you to go after this person to the fullest extent of the law?
No, I don't care. I thought about it first, and I was like, what am I going to do? It's like, what? You're going to go after this guy who doesn't have any money. It's not like he's not, you're going to have to prove financial loss. You're going to have to prove that it affected you financially in some way. I'm going to have to pay lawyer fees. He's not going to have any money because, he's a writer. So it's like he's sitting around, shitting out money. So I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to try to get a judgment against some guy that's like, I don't care. It's like, it doesn't make me any happier to do that. So I'm not just out to try to penalize someone. It's like, I'm fine. Like my life still rips, so I'm like, I'm still happy. I'm happy with my record. I'm happy with what I'm doing with my life. I'm happy that I'm the type of person that wouldn't do that. I'm not going to sit around wasting my time that I could be doing something productive and I could be doing something that I enjoy. I'm not going to waste my time, making myself miserable, dealing with lawyers and going after some guy. That's not the move for me, man. Like I've gotten in car accidents where it was someone else's fault, and I just get out and I look at my car and I go, that's not so bad, and I just drive away. And like I'm not a big lawsuit, sue people kind of guy.
What are you most proud of on the new album as a singer and as a player?
I'm proud of, obviously doing something on my own without a band is a giant undertaking. So just even getting it done and getting it out, I'm proud of that from like an accomplishment of like just the logistics of it standpoint. But I'm also, to me, it's a symbol of freedom and integration and self-ownership, which has kind of been a big theme in my life over the past few years, is getting myself to a point where I am completely comfortable with myself and I'm completely free to move in whatever direction I want without guilt or without feeling too embarrassed. And a lot of that, releasing something with my own name, that's my birth name, and I didn't hide behind a moniker or something, and I wasn't afraid to put different genres on the same record, and I didn't inhibit myself in any way. And, putting it out on my own without another record label, all of it was sort of this exercise in freedom and integration and self-ownership. And I turned 40 this year, so that all kind of ties into where it just felt like an important point in my life to be like, going forward, I don't want to leave anything off the table, and I want to make sure that I've got enough avenues for myself creatively that I don't have to. And, so releasing a solo record kind of allows me to achieve a lot of those goals in one thing.
It's quite an eclectic mixture of sounds from a little bit of R&B to reggae? How do you get from point A to point B?
Well, for me, the point is to not think in those terms when I'm writing. So I feel like if you're a writer and you're writing purely, then you just pick up the instrument and you let what's coming out of you come out of you. Like, the instrument is just a tool. Like the way you feel inside is what you're trying to capture. So art essentially is just an abstract feeling. It's an abstract emotion that you're trying to release in a form that you can't say literally. You're not writing an essay. You're trying to encapsulate this feeling. So the tool is almost inconsequential. You're going to get that feeling out of you whether you use a camera or a guitar or a microphone or a xylophone. Like, whatever's coming out of you, it's going to find a way out of you if you put that tool in your hand. So for me, when I write, I don't think about genre. I'm just writing from an emotional standpoint, and it always baffles me when people are so concerned with genre, because to me it's like, well, if you're a painter and you're writing a painting, it's like people don't go crazy because you use the color blue and the color red. Like, you're not expected to just paint in shades of blue or shades of red, or you don't isolate your paintings based on what shade of color you're using. Or if you're a movie maker, that's like, you make movies that don't fall into one genre, like a Tarantino or a Paul Thomas Anderson. It's like, they might have a funny part right next to a sad part, right next to an action sequence, right next to a dramatic part, and no one goes into those movies and thinks, man, I can't believe that wasn't just a comedy, or that wasn't just a horror movie. So as a writer, or as a musician, it's always been really wild to me how obsessed people get about categorization, and a lot of it is because the money has fallen out of the industry, so people get so protective about their niche, and they get so, they operate from such a protectionist standpoint, and I've never understood that. It seems like a cage. As soon as you're building your own cage, like, the second you want to write something and you don't, because you think that, whoever was into the previous song might not be into this song, you are following your audience, and you immediately take yourself out of the artist position, and you're no longer leading. You're no longer, initiating a conversation. You are now reacting to your audience, and they own you. I detest that. I detest it, and I feel like that's, to me, the opposite of how I ever want to be.
Commerce.
Yeah, I detest it. To me, the commerce aspect of it is an afterthought. You do what you do, and then after you've done what you're doing, then, of course, you try to figure out a way to monetize it enough, don't end up taking a loss on it. But I've never gone into something thinking that I'm worried about losing a fan, or that guy A isn't going to be he's going to be into song 1, but he's not going to be into song 2. It's not my problem, That's like someone else's problem. And they're more than if you like the record, if you dig the record, you dig all of it, that's cool. If you fucking only like a few songs, but not some other kinds of songs, that's cool. I've got some bands that don't sound like other bands that I've done, and if you like one and not the other, that's cool too, man. Like, that's not none of it's my problem. So, as long as I'm happy with the thing that I just did, and I feel like what I did was honest, and I didn't deviate. I got out of the thing what I wanted to get out of it, and I said what I needed to say. I just move on, and I move forward, and whoever is there, I just drop the bomb, and I don't look back. I don't look back. I don't see what kind of damage it caused. I don't see whether I gained fans, lost fans, got bigger, got smaller. Don't care. Like, I just keep going and figure it out. It's not. Once you make that decision, once you make the decision that this is what you are, like, this is what you are with your life, like, I don't care. You don't care anymore whether people come or go. You're just like, yeah, I don't care. Like my success for me is being honest, and like, as an artist, not making sure that I don't have to work a job. I'd rather work a job than corrupt my art. If it came down to it, if someone was like, hey, you got to go dig holes for a living and pour concrete in order to keep your art pure, or you have to fucking change your art to keep making sure that you don't have another job, that's not even a question to me. I would be pouring concrete right now.
How familiar are you with reaction videos? Do you think they are a little absurd?
Not really at all. Like, I don't look at any of that stuff. Like, I'm aware that there's a giant group of people that are just, their whole thing is just to react to things. And I just look at it like it's a form of a review. It's a modern form of a record review. I think everyone's welcome to, and it gives people a little bit of attention. It gives people a little bit of, everyone wants to be known and wants to get some attention. So it's a mix of just a modern record review with some attention. And sometimes I guess they can be entertaining for other people to watch, and it's a form of entertainment. It checks a bunch of little boxes for people. So whatever you're into, like, it's not for me. You know, I'm not interested in doing them. I'm not interested in watching them, but doesn't mean that I don't think they're valid. It's just not for me.
How stoked were you to work with Chris Penne again? It's been a few years.
Awesome. Yeah, really highlight of my last couple of years was reconnecting with him. We were really good friends when he was in Dillinger, and we had a great, not just personal relationship, but we had a really fruitful, creative relationship. And, we walked away from that for a really long time. You know, when he left Dillinger, or we split with him, it was pretty acrimonious behind the scenes, and there was a little bit of like side taking that had to happen, you know. So we kind of left each other alone out of protection for ourselves, and to like sort of, you're on, you know, you went this way, I went that way. We need to let each other be for a while. And when the band ended, we started kind of reconnecting, and it was really natural. We didn't reconnect musically. We just started kind of connecting personally again, and now he's a person that's in my regular life. You know, we text all the time, like probably every other day. We're texting about things that don't have anything to do with music. Like, did you see this, you know, football game? Can you believe this thing? Have you seen this movie? Have you heard this record? Just stuff about life. And, kind of born out of that, when I wrote that song that he played on, the first person that came to mind to play drums was Chris. And I was like, damn, this would be a song that Chris would really kill. So I kind of floated it to him, and I was like, hey man, no pressure. Just, if you want to kick it back, if you don't, you know, let me know. And then within 24 hours, he sent it back to me, fully done. Drums fully tracked, added some synths, and really took it in didn't expect that to happen. And it was just like a really nice metaphorical healing of like a friendship and like a creative relationship that, like, doesn't mean we're going to do it again, doesn't mean we're not going to do it again. It was just sort of like this nice, you know, full circle thing that happened.
That's awesome. I was just reading a story about one of the guitar players from Iron Maiden that bonded with an old drummer of theirs, and bonding outside of the band meant fishing.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, Chris and I kind of talk about basketball a lot. We talk about basketball, and I think that was the genesis of our getting back together. Was like, I think we hung out. He came to see another band that I'm in called the Black Queen. He came to see us play in New York, and we hung out all night and just kind of reconnected. And then we just started texting a lot about basketball. And have you seen this? You know, I think it was the playoffs during the time it was happening. Like, are you watching this? Have you seen this game? Did you see this guy? And like, you know, started kind of reconnecting about sports of all things. And then yeah, just like kind of took it from there.
Talk a little bit about your ADD, your life with ADD, and your fondness for Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, well, Appetite for Destruction was the first record that I really dug into as a kid. Like, it wasn't given to me from my parents, you know. Like, everything else at that point was just osmosis from my parents, and my parents they had really eclectic taste. Like, my dad was really into rock and classic rock, and my mom was really into Motown and stuff like Elton John and Gordon Lightfoot and stuff like that. But Guns N' Roses, I would say I was like maybe 7 or 8 years old. Appetite was the first thing that I heard on my own that really felt like I was obsessed with it. Like, I listened to it until the writing was gone on the tape. Like, I would just listen to it over and over. Like, when one side ended, I flipped it. When the next side ended, I flipped it. And I would just over and over and over and over and over listen to it, and I couldn't get enough of it. And that was kind of the beginning of me kind of it spoke to me in a lot of ways. Like, I could feel the attitude in it. Like, I could feel the difference between that band and like the other hair metal bands. I wasn't into Poison, and I wasn't into Motley Crue. I wasn't into that stuff. And so Guns was the band to me that had some attitude and kind of spoke to me a little bit as a kid. And but ADD, yeah, I mean, ADD is a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of my life every day. I don't talk about it a whole lot, but it's a macrocosm and a microcosm of me as a person. It's like I'm musically, I can't stick to one thing. I've got all kinds of different things going on. My day is, I'm medicated. Like, I'm on, I've got a little bit of extended release, Adderall in me to keep me from being a complete goldfish. But, I've spent a lot of my life, like, I have a really hard time focusing on something, that I'm not really into, which is kind of giving me blinders to my career, which is great, because I think maybe if I'd have been medicated when I was a kid, I don't know if I would have pursued music as heavily, because I maybe wouldn't have been as intolerant of everything else. Like, ADD makes you intolerant of anything that you're not really in love with. Like, you can't wash dishes, you can't do laundry, you won't go to the store, you're just intolerant of anything, like school, anything that you're not in love with. It's painful to do. And like, so for me, I never had any sort of fallback. I never was into anything else. I had a hard time doing things that I should, responsibly be doing, but I couldn't do them because all I wanted to do was write music and play music. So it made me who I am. But now that I'm, an adult, like, I have to be slightly functional. So, if I'm not, a little bit medicated, it'll take me an hour every day. I'll spend an hour at least every single day trying to find my keys, find my wallet, find my phone, put something down in a place that it doesn't belong, and I spend the next 45 minutes trying to find it, and then I'm late for something, and then I miss the thing that I was supposed to go to, and it's just this chain reaction of insanity because your brain is like, you have the attention span of a goldfish and the memory span of a goldfish, and I think it's made me a better performer. Like, I think having ADD makes me more, it makes me really in the moment as a person. Like, I'm intensely in the moment. So if I'm with someone or I'm performing, like, I'm really, really fresh every second, which is a good thing for performing. But yeah, like I said, it's a bad thing in life because I can't fucking remember anything. So I got to have lists. I have lists for everything I fucking do. A list of what I'm supposed to do that day, a list of what I'm buying at the store, a list of what I'm going to do this week. Because if I don't, I just won't do any of it, and I'll just sit and write music the entire time or something like that. So it is a lot. It's a lot to do with my personality behind the scenes.
Greg, thanks for taking the time to talk to us here at MetalgodZradiO.
Thank you, man.
My pleasure. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with anybody that might be listening to this?
Just, anybody that has heard anything or is going to check out anything that I'm a part of, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And just for everyone, good luck getting through this year. We'll get to the end of this and this whole COVID thing. We'll be the other side of this Twilight Zone hellscape, hopefully, before we all know it, and stay safe, and appreciate everyone's time that listens in any capacity.